If you're passionate about motorsports, I'm here to give you 5 tips that'll help you get started in your career. Hey, my name is Anthony. I'm a mechanical engineering student from Miami, Florida. I currently work as a mechanic for several Formula racing teams, and I'm here to give you some advice on how to get into the motorsport industry. So whether you love Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, whatever it may be, or you're looking to get into a more exciting career field, I'm here to help you and give you some more advice as to how to make that happen. The first thing I would say is to define what is it that you would want, specifically what role are you looking for within the motorsport industry. And there's several different types. It's not just being a mechanic or a racing driver. There's multiple aspects into the industry. There's different roles to help make things happen, a lot of things behind the scenes that you don't see, and there are people paying for these services. Like I said already, the most common is being the racing driver. This is by far one of the most difficult ones to achieve. Not only does it involve a lot of talent, but a lot of financial backing. Some of you have probably already seen the old videos of Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Alex Albon racing and karting, and then obviously you see where they're at now. That took a lot of money to get there. I'd say it's hundreds of thousands of dollars in go-karting, yes, in go-karting, to get into a level where they started having people have their eye on them and start considering them for other opportunities like Formula 3, Formula 2, Euro Formula, whatever it may be. So yes, you can get sponsors to help you, but nowadays it's a lot more difficult than it was back in the day. But it's not impossible. Luckily we're in an age where Instagram and social media is keen. If you market yourself properly, and if you display some sort of value to companies, it's not impossible to get the sponsorship you need to be a racing driver. There is also engineering, that's what I do. I can do a whole separate video on that as well, but there are several different roles with engineering that you can do that'll put you, whether it be at the factory of the team for support, or building the car, or being on track, which is what I do. Engineering is definitely a more hands-on approach that you could do to be involved in the motorsports industry, whether it be a race engineer, system engineer, aerodynamicist, mechanic as well. You don't really need to necessarily go to a trade school, but it helps a lot. Some of the mechanics on that Formula One or even IndyCar I've seen have their engineering degrees, and it goes hand in hand very well. Mechanics that have their engineering degree is a huge plus. It puts them ahead of other mechanics as well because they can think like engineers. Data analysis as well is another one that's very sought out. It's a good entry-level position, so is system engineering. And yeah, it's a good overall field to start with if you're more of a hands-on approach, more of with the scientific mindset. Business and finance, that's another one that is huge in the motorsports industry. Race cars don't run on gasoline, they run on money. So someone needs to be there to control all the finances, all the taxes involved as well. This is more for high-level motorsports. It helps if you get into that, having a college degree. Lower-level motorsports experience is not really necessary, but it's a huge plus if they see that you already understand the industry fresh out of college. Logistics coordinator and management is another one as well. The teams need a leader, and that could be you if you have the right qualifications. And finally, marketing and public relationships. Also, let's throw hospitality in that as well. Some of these huge race teams have a lot of people involved, whether it be the ones working internally within the team or the ones external that come to visit the teams and whatnot, whether it be for networking or just for business purposes as well. They need someone to control all that. So the same goes for social media as well. The teams need to be marketed out there. There's huge value in that. Teams bring in revenue, displaying other companies' logos on the car or online as well, and they need someone to create content and also manage it as well. So that's another one of the many jobs that are available within the motorsports industry. The second thing I would say to help you get started in the motorsport industry is get experience. Now, it is a very niche field, so you'd have to reach out a lot to the right people to start getting that experience. If you have any local racing teams around you, I would say reach out to them and offer your services. You might have to be working for free for a little bit, but pay attention to your experience level and how you grow your knowledge, and eventually you might want to consider start charging. That way it frees up your time, whether you're working a job already, and then they can start, that way you can spend even more time with the team at hand. Now I want to bring up a pretty important part. You will have to travel, whether it be to the race teams or once you're already in the industry, you're gonna have to travel. I always like to make the comparison with Hollywood. You know, your favorite Hollywood actor at some point had to make a pretty big sacrifice, whether it be financial, seeing their family and friends, being out of their comfort zone. At some point they had to move. It's usually Hollywood. If it's a director or a filmmaker, they have to move to New York. If they have to do it, you do too. I see myself moving either to Indianapolis or North Carolina in the next couple of months. That's just to take my career to the next level. But for you, it might be just to get it started. I'm lucky where I live, Miami, Florida, there's already a pretty decent racing scene here, but it's not the most professional. Not to shame Miami or anything like that, it's just the industry doesn't run from here, you know? And it's no secret that in Formula One, it runs in Europe, it runs in the United Kingdom, so I'm prepared to do that as well. And yeah, you should too, you know? Whatever it takes to make it happen. If you have to save up money or ask for help, figure it out. Just remember that you have to do some sacrifices to get started. And like I mentioned already, you're gonna have to travel. At first, teams aren't gonna be willing to fly you out. That's how I work most of the time, is teams will fly me out to the track. At first, that's not gonna happen, but it's important that you build up your skills to a point where you will go and offer to a team your services, and then they might wanna consider flying you out to help you out from that point on. But first, it starts with getting some little local level experience, and then be mindful that at some point they're gonna wanna fly you out, and then that'll take your experience to the next level. If you're in college, I highly suggest you join Formula SAE or Formula Student if you're in Europe. It's a great place to get experience in whatever it may be in the motorsports industry. If it's in engineering, it's a fantastic place to get it because it's essentially a Formula One team in a nutshell. In most racing, the car is already built and spec'd out. In Formula One and MotoGP, it's not like that. You build the car from the ground up, and you do that as well in Formula SAE. But in other roles, Formula SAE is pretty big for your typical college extracurricular team. There are other things that are required to keep it alive, and that involves all the other jobs that I mentioned: financing, marketing and PR, logistics. I would say it's normally Formula Student, Formula SAE is marketed as a engineering club, but it's far from it. So I would say if you're interested in the motorsports industry, you're in college, you want the experience, reach out to your local Formula Student, Formula SAE team and ask them how you can help, you know. Internships are also another great way to get experience. This also goes for this also goes for the people that I mentioned that were in college. It would be a good idea to reach out to your university and see what different companies are in the network that come to look for students to hire for internships, and start mapping out what you're expected to learn and what qualifications those internships offer, and see if they apply to the motorsports industry. So apply for them, and once you get them, that is something you can add to your resume. That's something you can show to future teams. The next step I would say is educate yourself and develop your skills. So at the beginning of the video, I mentioned all the different roles within the industry. Now find out what skills are required for that. You can go to some websites like motorsportsjobs.com, and they'll have listings of different jobs in different industries, not just engineering. They'll state the requirements that are expected in this role. Another tip that you could do is go on LinkedIn. Either look for someone that already has that job, or look for groups of people that are in the industry, in the motorsports industry, obviously, and take a look at their profile and see what is it that they have at hand, and start learning all that. To get these skills, YouTube is a great one. Books is another. You might have to buy a couple courses here and there. I've bought some to further enhance my engineering skills. But the best way, honestly, is volunteering, like I said in my previous tip. Going in there and actually learning the skills themselves. Find someone that is willing to teach you, because here's a behind the scenes tip I'll give you. In the motorsports industry, specifically at the track, most people do not have time to teach you. They're too busy focusing on their job, getting things done. You kind of have to learn along the way, on the job training, OTJ, as some of my coworkers have told me. There are some days where things are more relaxed depending on your situation and who you're working with, who you're maybe working at the shop, and they'll be able to be more hands-on with you. But a lot of the learning you'll have to do yourself. As I mentioned in my previous tip, joining Formula Student, Formula SA, that is your time to develop the skills. It is a low pressure environment. You don't have anybody breathing behind your back or anything like that. You're not getting paid, unfortunately, so there's less pressure. So that's your time to sit down, research and learn all the skills you need to learn so that when someone is interested in hiring you, you're ready to go. The next tip I'll give you is networking. Networking is super critical, not just in motorsports, but in anywhere. For me, working in motorsports, that's old cliche saying that it's not what you know, it's who you know is very true. Not gonna lie, sometimes I get a little bit of imposter syndrome and I wonder, how did I get here? You know, and it all comes down to how I've been able to talk to different people once I'm either at the track or at the shop or even online. A lot of my work has come, a lot of my opportunities have come from my online presence, you know. People see me, they trust me, and hopefully they'll do the same for you. If you're an FSA, Formula Student, or any of those other extracurriculars that I mentioned, if you have some sort of alumni network, I strongly suggest you look into that because someone there can help you. And another behind the scenes tip I'll give you is the motorsports industry is way smaller than you think. Someone that is, let's say, in IndyCar eventually has to come back and work with someone in go-karting, to give you an example. I've seen it happen before, you know. With the motorsports industry, depending on the level that you're at, you're not gonna be working every week. Some people come back to the lower levels of the motorsports to look for more work or to just network with up and coming people, and you should be there for when that happens. Really, my career path was sort of started from the go-karting end of things. So someone in go-karting knew someone in the formula stuff, someone in the formula stuff knew, you know, IndyCar more or less, and then it just goes up the ladder like that. And my final tip for working in the motorsports industry is stay resilient. Do not give up, all right? Once you're on this path, don't give up, all right? It is not an easy path, okay? A lot of the work that you're gonna do is gonna come from sort of like a freelancing mindset, give or take. So most of the work is gonna be done on yourself. Like I said, you're gonna have to work with some of the lower level teams to get some experience, and they're just not as professional as, say, for example, the companies you would be interning for. You know, a lot of the times they're not gonna reach out to you. At least they're not gonna reach out to you after you've already reached out to them the first time. They're gonna forget about you, you know, especially since you're just starting out. They have their mindset on the next event, the next person they're gonna hire for other things, you know, so you need to be knocking on their door, metaphorically. You know, think of the saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You need to be constantly reach out to the teams, whether it be in a local standpoint or whatnot, that you're available to work. What can you do to help? You know, and also let them know what have you learned so far, you know, because they see that you're a hustler and they're gonna want to keep you on. You're gonna have some setbacks. Some people are never gonna call you again with no explanation. That's just how it works. Pay may a little bit be difficult, but life just has like a funny way of making things work out. I'm not religious or anything per se, but it's like the universe or God will give you what you want if you don't give up. It may not be how you want it or how you expected it to be, but the most common denominator for success in this field is not giving up. Some people are gonna wanna help you, but they're not gonna help you if you're not present. If you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're gonna get your hair cut, you know? With that being said, you have to stay present. You can't give up. You have to stay in this industry once you're in it. So there you have it, my top 5 tips into getting into the motorsports industry. This probably won't be my first. I'm probably gonna take some of these tips and go into even further detail. Feel free to comment below if there's anything that you want me to go into more detail or something else that's been on your mind, whether it be your role or my role, engineering. Just embrace the journey, learn from every experience that you're going through, keep pushing towards your goals. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can follow me on my other social media as well, LinkedIn and Instagram. And yeah, stay driven, don't give up, keep chasing your dreams.